Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Ask robtrek, where I answer your questions from the comment sections and other videos I've made. And today I have a couple of questions that I think I can get to, and I'll put them up on the screen here. But let's go to the first one. This is from Sergey Darovsky, I think. Sorry if I messed that pronunciation up. But hello Rob, thank you for this video, but the problem I have is that it looks like that my flash seems not to work with the camera almost at all. I have the M5 Mark III camera. Now the flash seems to work only in case when I use auto camera mode. Otherwise the flash symbol is gray and the flash is not flashing. Could you make a short video on how to use the flash in a basic way? For example, simple photos outside when it's rather dark. Thank you and Merry Christmas. And Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year probably by this time you see it. Alright, so the short answer is, and the most likely reason is that when you're in other modes other than auto, you're probably in silent shutter mode or electronic shutter mode. And in electronic shutter mode, you really can't use the flash. Now there is an exception to that, and I'll demonstrate that. But when you're in auto mode, the camera won't let you use a silent shutter mode. You have to use a mechanical shutter, and that's why the flash works when you're in auto mode, and as opposed to your other modes. So let's go into the super control panel. And you can see I have the camera in auto mode. And if I go to the shutter mode section, you can see that I cannot select anything with a silent shutter. In fact, the Pro Capture high and low are grayed out because those are silent shutter modes as well. However, if I put the camera, let's say in the aperture priority, and I go in the super control panel, you can see that I have a silent mode selected. However, you'll notice that even though I have the flash turned on, it's grayed out and I can't do anything. But all I need to do is put the camera into a mechanical shutter mode, and that turns it right back on or gives you access to the flash. And it's really, that's most likely what the problem is. Now you can use flash in silent mode or electronic shutter mode, but there's several caveats to that, and you have to dive into the menu, because by default, being able to use flash in electronic or silent mode is disabled. So first thing we'll do is just enable it. Alright, so all you need to do is go into the menu, go to shooting menu number 2, then scroll down to anti-shock and silent settings, click OK. Then scroll down here to silent mode settings, click over to the right with the D-pad, then scroll down to flash mode, click over to the right again, and then select allow. Now, I mentioned there's some caveats to using flash in silent mode, and they're on page 96 of the manual in the M5 Mark III. But basically, when you're in any of the shooting modes or high-res shot mode or focus bracketing, your sync speed is limited to 1/50th of a second. Now normally you can go up to 1/250th of a second in mechanical shutter mode, but when you're in electronic shutter mode, you're limited to 1/50th of a second sync speed, which really is not a big deal. If the flash is your only source of light, then you'll be okay. Now the other caveat here, according to the manual, is when you're over ISO 8000, and using electronic shutter, your flash sync speed is limited to 1/20th of a second. So let's just take a quick look. I'm in aperture priority, I'm at 1/10th of a second, so I'm within the range of, or limit for the flash sync speed when we're using electronic shutter. And if we double check, you can see that I am in electronic shutter as indicated by the heart in front of the shutter mode, and the flash is not grayed out. So I can take a picture here, and not that you can tell, but it did fire the flash. The other option is if I go into shutter priority and I set my shutter speed to 1/50th of a second, you can see that the flash is enabled. However, if I try to increase my shutter speed, it won't let me. It's not going to let me use a faster shutter speed because I have the flash turned on. So if I want to break through that 1/50th of a second, I have to turn the flash off, and then I can go to any shutter speed I want. But let's say I'm at 1/250th of a second, I turn the flash on, you'll see that the shutter speed drops automatically to 1/50th of a second. And of course, you know, if you're doing high-res shot mode or focus bracketing, you're going to drop down to 1/50th of a second as well. Alright, now another question I think I can do is, I'm having problems with my EM1 Mark II. Occasionally when I look through the EVF, it's just black. Doesn't look as if it's on, nothing whatsoever. Basically, I have to switch it on and off again. Any suggestions what this might be and possible solutions? I formatted the SD cards, but still no joy. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and thanks for all your hard work. Well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you as well. I know Wally's been a viewer of mine for a long time, so it's great to see you there in the comments section. Now, there can be really 2 or 3 issues why the EVF is black sometimes, like not coming on. And I need a little more information to be more decisive in my answer, but that said, I'm going to assume that the LCD or the live view is working here on the display, but sometimes you're just having problems with the EVF. And if that's the case, there can be 2 or 3 problems. One is, it's possible the eye sensor inside the EVF is going bad, or it's just dirty and you need to clean it. So check the eye sensor and make sure it's clean. You can use a Q-tip to kind of clean it off, and that may solve the problem. Hopefully that's all it is. The other thing it can be is the lens mount itself might be a little bit dirty. So see if this happens with other lenses, but what I would do is use the same Q-tip and try and clean the contacts on the camera mount and the lens mount itself, the electronic contacts. Because if the lens doesn't have a good contact, or it has a flaky contact with the camera, then the EVF and the live view for that matter will go blank. Now if the live view is working just fine, that means that the contacts between the lens and the camera are just fine. So the only other thing we can check for are the settings, right? Because there are settings that affect how the EVF works, turns on and off, etc., in combination with the live view. So what I would do is first see if the EVF itself is working, not the eye sensor, but just the EVF itself is working consistently. And what I would do is change the EVF behavior or function to be a switch. So you can toggle between live view and the EVF so that only one will be on at a time, and it's not going to try and automatically switch. So first I'm going to switch it to EVF only and make sure that the EVF stays on. So let's go ahead and turn off what they call the auto switch between the EVF and the live view. So what you do is you press and hold the EVF button, and on EM5 Mark III it's here on the top. On other cameras it may be in a different spot. But now I can kind of toggle through off, on 1, on 2, and back to off in this case. So I'm going to turn it off and click OK. So you have to click the OK button for it to engage, otherwise it's not going to set. And now if I click the EVF button, it's going to toggle between the EVF and the live view. So if I click it again, now we're on live view. If I click it again, now we're on EVF. And my face doesn't have to be up to the camera for the EVF to be on. It should be on all the time at this point. All right, so let's put this back into on 1, like so. And now we're back to auto switching mode. And in this mode, you can actually see the light sensor blinking there. And now when I put my finger up, the camera auto switches between the EVF and the live view. However, if I open the screen all the way like this, the EVF and live view still automatically switch between the two. And this is where on 2 comes in. If I switch this to on 2, now we still have our normal auto switch mode, but if the live view is open all the way, you'll see that the auto switch has been turned off, so it doesn't switch between the EVF and the live view. And that's really the only difference between on 1 and on 2. All right, then one more quick question here is, hi Rob, just came across this video. Thanks, I have the previous 75-300 lens. I'm on a budget. Is it worth getting this lens, the 75-300 Mark II? Now my advice is, regardless if you're on a budget or not, is really you don't need to buy the Mark II version if your Mark I version is working perfectly fine. There's not going to be any difference really in image quality. Now from what I read, because I only have the Mark II version, the only difference between the two lenses is one is cosmetic, right? They just redesigned the exterior casing so that it matches better with the newer cameras that came out since the release of the first one. And then two is, and I can't confirm this either, is they said they put new coatings on the lens elements. And coatings can play a pretty big role in the image quality, by increasing contrast and reducing glare and flaring and ghosting and things like that. Because inside a lens, particularly long telephoto lenses like that lens, there's a lot of elements there and there's a lot of room for reflections to bounce around inside the lens, and coatings are supposed to help reduce that. So you'll get better contrast and ideally better sharpness from a lens that has better coatings. But I would argue that it's probably not enough to splurge on a Mark II version if you have a good copy of the Mark I. All right, I hope that helps some of you. If so, consider buying me a coffee or making a small donation in the links below. They're greatly appreciated. And I'll try and keep answering questions from you either directly in the comments section or in videos like this. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.